we will be talking about. So today I'm very, very happy to be here to share with you some knowledge, skills, expertise I have, and I'm sure you do also have some very interesting things to share with us, because we will have a kind of open discussion where you will share your inputs, your knowledge with me, with the other participants, to make sure that we get out of this first part of the webinar with the maximum of knowledge, the maximum of expertise. So how we're going to make it? For this first part, we'll focus mainly on the concepts and the processes. So the concept, what is being investment ready, and the processes, how can we get there, how you can get there with your startups. And just to remind everyone that being investment ready, there is no, I mean, it's not written in stones, like we say in French. Anyone can have a kind of appreciation or let's say definition or whatever in or a meaning of investment readiness. So I will share mine. Mine meaning if you take the lenses of an investor, what he would expect from a startup, what he would expect from a startup to invest in it. So this is how I'm going to do it. And really feel free to comment, to write your comments on the chat box, and when we'll open the session to have a quick discussion on this, it will help, I think, everyone here. So today we will define and talk about the investment, what is being investment ready, talked about the investors for the startups, depending on their stage of maturity. So how you can actually build a investment readiness program for them. And finally, we'll talk about connecting with investor, how we can connect with investor. Some of the topics will be, it's a really broad topic. So we'll highlight, we'll talk about some, let me just stop my video and close this. Yeah. So some of the concepts, I am sure you already know them very well. Some of the concepts you are not familiar with it, just write your comments or question, and then we try to answer them. Again, it's a very broad topic, so we'll talk briefly in some of them, but some others I will try to explain them a bit more in depth. So without I think we can start by defining what is investment readiness. Investment ready, being investment ready. If you take again the seat of an investor or a lender or a funder, he think he see, if he see your business or the business you are introducing to him that worth investing and ready for the next step, that means you are investment ready, or your startup is investment ready. There are three main components for that. The first one is the business needs to be commercially viable, meaning having some revenues, maybe some profits, maybe not yet, but at least having some revenues, having a kind of business model should be viable, etc., etc. So the business has to be commercially viable. And of course, it has to bring back value to him, to the investor. The reason why people invest, the first reason, there are many reasons, but the first reason usually is to get back some returns, financial returns, right? So the business needs to bring back value to him. And now the last one is be able to articulate your investment proposition, meaning explain to him clearly how much do you need, and why do you need these funds, and how these funds, this money, can get can impact the growth of the business. These are three main components, very, very important. If you have those three, we can say you are investment ready. So we'll get into details, into the details of the three of these, in the details of the three, these three main components of being investment ready. And now, and afterwards, to show you how you can build something that will help you or help your startups to get there. So before we get into the content, I would like to do a quick quiz. So if someone at the ITC can just show the quiz, the pool. What are equity investors' return expectations? Please try to answer. We have like 30 seconds, quickly. Okay, so we have 11 answers, 12. We are, how many are we? Can we have a bit more? But oh, there is 10 missing. I know me and the team, we are like 7 maybe. 5, 6, yeah. Yeah, please vote, 14 people. 15. Okay, so we from 15 people, we're seeing that 47 think it's 10x. 20% 50x, and 33%, 5 out of 15 think it's 2x. When I say x is 2 times or 10 times their investments, that's what we are referring when we say x. Okay, so thank you for sharing. Thank you for the pool. Let me just close it. So I would say most of you think it's 10x, okay. Some others think it's 2x, some others 50x. Let me share the answers. It's 10x or 15x. Let's say it's a minimum of 10x. That's the right answer. When we are talking here, we are talking about equity investor. Equity investor mean they have a range of instruments they can use to invest in. So if they invest in a startup again, I'm sure you know it, it's a very risky business. So they expect some returns out of the risk they are taking. And the minimum risk the minimum returns they are expecting is 10x. So it could be 10, 20, 30, maybe 100, maybe more. But the minimum is 10. And I will explain a bit why. When a fund invests in a business, they expect each of these investments to return the size of the fund. Why? Because most of the investments will fail. So when they assess an investment, they assess it like if the business has the potential to return the size of the fund. Let's take an example. If, for example, you have a fund of 50 million, 50 million will do between 15 and 20 investment usually, which means an average of 3 million per investment. If you multiply 3 million by 10, it gives you 30 million. So this can make sense for them. 20 will do. But this 20 million is without any dilution. I am sure you, I mean, I think some of you are familiar with the concept of dilution. I will explain it a bit later. But this is the reason why they expect high returns, very high returns. If you can give them these returns, usually they are not the right investors for you. Usually it means your business is not yet there for them to come. So you have to look for other type of funder, maybe banks, maybe international organizations that provide funding, grants, for example, competitions, for example, but definitely not for equity investors. So I said they are expecting 10x minimum. How it works actually? So at the first, for example, at year 0, they invest 100K for 20% of shareholding with a 50K valuation post money. Post money means the valuation before the investment. Okay. We assume they can, in 5 years, for example, there will be many investments, many rounds, you know, and they expect 75% dilution. So the shareholding will be diluted by 75. So now they hold only 5% of the shareholding. But if they want to do 10x, it means they invested 100K, multiply by 10, it means 1 million. So if they have 1 million in value, they have 1 million returns in value, they hold 5%, it means the valuation of the company is 20 million. So you see, in 5 years, you were at 500K, 500,000 to 20 million. It's 40x, for example. It's very high. So that's why it's very important to make sure that these guys, these funders, these businesses that are targeting these equity funds, I mean, at the early stage of their existence, they have the right business to achieve those returns, 30, 20, 30, 40, maybe 50x, maybe more. This is very, very important to have in mind. So dilution, I will be very brief on this. Dilution means decrease in shareholding ownership of a company. So you own 20%, now you are getting diluted, now you own less, 5, 10, etc. Why? Because when people invest, when you invest in a business, and then there is another round of investment, if you do not invest, if you do not follow, it means your shareholding value will decrease. I will show you quickly how. So again, quick concepts: pre-money, post-money value. Post-money value is pre-money. Pre-money is before the investment. Post-money after the investment, and the capital raise is the capital you actually got from the investors. Existing shareholder ownership, pre-money divided by post-money value. New shareholding, capital raise dividing by post-money value. And here we have a quick example. We have two businesses. One has a pre-money value of 100, the second 45. They raise the same amount of capital, 60. And now the post-money value, of course, is the sum of the two, 160 and 15. So the funders, of course, before the investment, the funders own 100% of the business. Now for the first one, they own 62.5%, and the second they own 42.5%. And then the new shareholders, because the reason why you are getting diluted because you have new shareholders, they own now 37 and 57. I won't spend a lot of time on this. If you have questions, just write them down and we can answer on it. So being investment ready, we say the first component is to be, your business has to be commercially viable. What it means, we try to put it in 5 key points. The first one is to have a clear value proposition. What is your competitive advantage? How you're going to keep it for long? How you're going to keep this competitive advantage for the long term? Because if I invest in your business and I see that, okay, today you have a competitive advantage, whatever it is, and in 2-3 years, for example, I can see that you might lost it, you might lose it. I will just say, maybe there is something that is not that, valuable here. Okay, so it's really important to show what makes you different, what makes you ahead of the competition, and how you're going to keep this difference. We'll show quickly what it means to have a value proposition in 1 or 2 slides. The second point was the proof that the business model is working. Depending on the stage of your business, I will expect different things. But at the minimum, I would like to know if the business model is working, meaning if you have a proof of concept, you have a product that is ready and the product has early adopters. So meaning you start selling the product, you already started. There is a market valuation. You already have a bit of track record, some sales. Even if you are not making profit, it's fine. But at least I need to see that you are not just in your kitchen doing your stuff, right? That you are out, people are buying, people like your products, even if it's not yet a big number of customer. You can prove that people love your products, right? The second one is one of the most important for me, the team. Because when you start when I say the startups you are working with, when they start at the early stage of their, at the beginning, the most important thing is the team that will deliver the message, that will deliver the vision, that will deliver what they want to do. This is very, very important, because you can have the best idea, you can have the best whatever. If you don't have the right team, you will never deliver. So it's really, really important to have these guys, the people, this team, to have the background, to have the track record, to have everything that can prove that they will be able to deliver. Okay, and now the market size. This one for me is the second most important thing. If you don't have a market, you don't have a business. Very important to have a clear assessment of your market. And lastly, the competition. I said why. So why you? Because you are in an environment where you have other businesses that are doing some similar stuff. So why you? Why not your competitor, right? So here you need to show, they will need to show why they are the right business to invest in, really, why they will beat the competition. This is very important also. So quick examples. What is a value proposition? A value proposition for me is who you are and what you do better than any other of your competitor. What's your value proposition? It's here. You will have the slides, so you will read it carefully. But this is a well-known image from value proposition. I'm sure some of you already know it, but it's really important to know exactly what makes you different, yeah, and valuable. So I'm sharing just here few companies that have a really great value proposition, and they have competition, but they keep on the. I think you will have some links that we'll share with you for more information on this. An example of market validation, actually it's more market size, all right, market size. So also this one, some of you maybe might see it on internet. This was the first Airbnb pitch in 2008. So it's market size. How you assess the market, the size of the market? The size of the market, they start saying you have almost 2 billion trips booked worldwide. Out of those 2 billion, we have only 500 trips booked online, because their market is online booking. And then we have 10 million, actually 11 million, let's say, trips that customers are targeting Airbnbs, not hotels, not resorts, extra, Airbnbs. And this is the market. It has to be very, very precise. I've seen a lot of startups or businesses sharing, you know, saying we are targeting the African market, for example. African market is, let's say, 1 billion. Okay, we are targeting 1 billion people. Yeah, but no, not really. You have to be very, very precise on what you are, who your customers are. So the second component is the returns. This this usually, I mean, this is the transcription of your ideas, what we have said earlier, into numbers. Okay, you start with your assumptions, but your assumptions come from a market research or traction. Traction meaning the business already was running for like the last few years, maybe 2, maybe 3 years. So today we know where is the business, so you will start there. Okay, they start there, they start their assumptions there. If you don't have it, it means you have to do some market research to set your assumptions. And from the assumptions, you do your financial projections, 3 years, 5 years, it depends. Very important to split the first year in months to see if there is seasonality in the business, for example. And the most important here is not really the end, because nobody can say in 3 years what will happen. What is important here, the way, the strategy you are using to get there. That's the most important, and that's what people value actually. And once you have that, then you work on the ratios. The ratios, there are a few I highlighted here. There are much more. The IRR, the NIP, NPV, sorry, the NPV, the net present value, the payback period. These are ratios investors are expecting to see when you come and talk to them, because that's where they will see if they get back their money or not. The last component is the investment proposition. How you will articulate your investment proposition. It's good to say, I'm ready, I want funds, etc., etc., but it's really important to say how the funds will be used and what impact these funds will have on the business. So how much funding is needed and what type, meaning it can be equity, it could be debt, it could be quasi-equity, it could be, I mean, there are many instruments that exist. Really important to assess them and to know exactly what do you need. How the funding will be used and impact the business. If I invest in a business, I expect the funder to tell me, okay, in 3 years' time, I will do this, 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 and then this will be the impact. I will increase my sales by 20%. I will increase my revenues by X, etc., etc. This is very important to explain how and the impact. And finally, to have a business valuation. I invest, let's say if I invest if I use an equity instrument, I need to have a valuation of your business to know how much share I'm getting from the money I'm putting in there, and also some exit options. I will think about me as an investor. Of course, when I invest, I will try to assess my options in terms of exit, but also you as a funder, I mean, the guys you are helping, they need to work on this also. And lastly, have what we call the investment pack or investment collateral or investment documents. People have different names, but literally it means the documents that will back everything you were saying. An investor deck, a financial model, sometimes a business plan. There are a few of them. And if they are really interested, they will ask you some financial statements, etc. So everything, all these things need to be ready. But we'll focus mostly on the investor deck and the financial model. Once we know what is being investment ready, it's very important to know where I am, if I am a startup, and what type of investors I will be targeting. Because if you are at the ideation stage, of course, if you go and talk to private equity firms, they won't listen to you. I mean, you are too small for them. The minimum, most of the private equity firms, the minimum investment they do, I'm not talking about impact investors and so on. can be from 1 million to maybe 5 million in some metro markets in Europe and in the US. I mean, these guys, if you don't look for maybe 100 million, they just don't listen to you, right? So it's very important to know what is the right investor for the startup. Okay, here I'm just showing a quick image of what we call the value of death, meaning usually startups, when they are at the seed stage, meaning they have their first funding coming from the family, themselves, or friends, they start working, and now they are in a situation where they start getting some revenues, but they need money. And these guys, the folks that already investing, they can't follow because the money is a bit more than what they can do, is where most of the startups fail. And not because the business is not viable, but just because they don't have the funding. So that's where it's very important for you guys to help them there. It's really, really important to identify investors or people that can help them to get out of this value. So for more a bit of details, for example, if you are at the seed stage, ideation stage, seed stage, what we expect is an MVV, the minimum viable product, a proof of concept. I already talked about it, like your concept is working, and the team, the viable team. Okay, so here, usually people that will invest are your family, your friends, angel investors, very, very important. It is getting, I don't know, it will be interesting to hear you later, but I know in Africa it is getting more attraction. I mean, people are creating more angel investors networks across the continent. Why? Because we just see that when a business need between 5,000, let's say 20,000, let's say 20,000 to 300,000 US dollar, there is nobody. Because the investment funds, they are not there, they are not interested because it's too small for them. Family, friends is too big for them. So it's a gap. That's where angel investors play a key role, and very important to create them if they don't exist in a country. And also, if you are in this stage, you can expect money from competitions. For example, startups can do some competition and get some money. Some donors, for example, they do support through grants, for example. Also, depending on your business, you might look for banks, maybe. But if you are a startup, a real startup, usually bank cannot finance you at this stage. But it depends on your business. At the early stage, we expect a bit more, meaning a business model that is actually working, a proof of customer acquisition. You get some customers, you retain them, you convert them into clients, etc., etc. So we expect a bit more in the business. The first thing we expect at the seed stage, we expect you to have something that is working. Let's say you have it's internal. Okay, you have the product, the team is there. Blah, blah, blah. We see, okay, this has the potential. For the second one, you go out and start selling. That's where we say, okay, we expect you to sell something, and you have to show that you are selling something. At the later stage, that's where you start selling, and then you go for scalability. Scalability in terms of geography. You change your region, your country, for example. You go for another country or another market, or in terms of product. You have a new product to sell, etc. And here you have VCs, private equity funds, banks, when you are looking for more than $1 million. For the early stage, usually you have these angel investors, venture capitalists, etc. Private equity firms, they come when it's quite big. So how do you get now your startup's investment ready? So we will have two main parts. The first one is assessing your ecosystem. It's one slide. We'll discuss this. And the second one is how to build an adaptable schedule program. A program that at the end, it has to have some tangible deliverables. We'll talk about it. Assessing your ecosystem, knowing your ecosystem. This is, for me, honestly, maybe one of the most important thing here. You have structure to help startups, right? To help them to grow and to get funding, to open to new markets, support them. Okay, so it's very important to have a network of institutions, of people that will help you, that will support your work. The first one for me, of course, are the potential investors. What type of investors do you have into your network, into your country, into your region, into your city? Okay, very important to know them, to have contact with them, not just knowing them, but to have contact with them, talk to them, involve them in what you are doing, your events, etc., etc. They can be private, like angel investors, seed VC funds, etc. They can be public. The government can have some initiatives. Very important to have them on your side, and for them to understand what you are doing. We'll talk about a bit how you can get them involved. The second one is what we call the entrepreneurial pool. This is important because it's not just about the few businesses you are working with, but it's about knowing the whole market. It's about knowing what is happening into your market, what is happening into your city, your environment, the startups that exist, the entrepreneurs that are out there, the market, how they do what they do. It's very important to be connected with them, even if they are not part of your cohort, for example. The third component is what we call the entrepreneurial infrastructure, or the investment infrastructure. It depends. This is people, experienced entrepreneurs, for example, you can work with, that can be coach, for example, for your startups. They will need it, especially when they want to expand. Also, really identify the other incubators. You are not in competition with them. I really believe that there are ways to collaborate and to share experience, to share tools, for example, the hubs, the events. Okay, right now with this COVID situation, it's not easy. We do virtual events, for example, but it's really important to organize events, because that's where people can meet and talk, actually, and that's where things can happen. Of course, the government, again, they are public, but they have a say on all of this, and they can be very helpful. The service providers, when you support your startups, you guys, you don't have all the skills that they need. To be clear, you don't have it, right? So it's really important to identify all these guys out there that can help you. Usually the service providers, you have to pay to get their services, right? So how you can work with them without paying, or without paying much? How you can do that? There are ways to do it, but it's very important to know who they are, what they do, and how they do it, if they can fit with what you work, what you are working on, what you want to do. One way we usually do to involve some of them is to do a kind of exchange. So they come, they help you on one or two startups, and then these startups become their clients, for example. And then when they become big, they start paying, etc. So there are ways to talk to them. And if they are quite big or recognized in the country, they might do it for free, because they usually do that for free. Big firms, they do it. They have some work that they do for free. Lastly, the one and very important, the regulatory environment, restrictions and incentives. Very important to know them. If there are incentives for investors, to invest in a business, you have to highlight it to help these startups. The commercial law, it's very, very important to protect also the intellectual property. All these things, you have to have a kind of program or classes or whatever it is to make sure that the startups you are helping, they are aware of it, and most important, if they know that you have all of these, they will be, I mean, it will be if you are few out there, you will attract maybe the best of the startups. This is very, very important, to attract the best of them, because that's where those guys will get the funding, and it's important to be there when they get it. So we will have a 10 minutes open discussion. I will put again my video and open the floor to all of you guys. But we'll start to keep it in 10 minutes. Everyone won't be able, unfortunately, to talk, but you can share your thought on the chat box. We have few questions here, but feel free, if there is something that is very important you wanted to highlight, to share it with everyone. But first, I just wanted to start with one question. What type of investors do you have in your city or your country? Meaning, do you have equity investors, VC firms? Do you have seed firms, for example? Angel investors, do you have them in your city, or you have just banks? Or what do you have? Do you know them? And can you share a bit more? I know in some countries, like South Africa, they have a bigger or better organized environment. In some other countries, much less. But it's very important to share what do you have, and also how it is working, and how this other can share. Okay, I see someone raising hands. Let me just see the participants. It is Muketsi Tekere. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much, Adrame, for the great presentation. So for introduction purposes, I sit in Gaborone in Botswana, but we also operate in Rwanda and Kigali. So we run as an early stage accelerator and a seed fund, where we actually take money out of our balance sheet and we invest in early stage startups that are really at pre-seed stage. So, but just to share maybe one or two in terms of your questions, I think what we are seeing where we sit in Botswana, specifically in Gaborone, is you've got a lot of equity investors who are more commercial banks, more funding SMEs, not really startups. So, but for the startups, there is now a formation of angel investor networks. These are wealthy individuals who understand the definition of startups. And these are obviously, as you have explained, a different type of business. They are not like SMEs. So we are seeing those funding those. But then obviously in terms of that, just the other question in terms of the relations between entrepreneurs and the investors. Like I feel that the biggest confusion now is Africa has been like so obsessed with SMEs. So people are now beginning to understand this new type of business called a startup. So the growth of the angel investor networks across the continent is sort of on a different leg, as opposed to the more brick and mortar businesses which the banks are funding, because most of the banks won't fund a startup. Most startups are not even funded by banks or these commercial institutes. For the VCs, obviously, they won't fund a startup unless if they are really like at market cap beyond $1 million or so, and that really established in the market. So that is the challenge. I think the biggest challenge is to educate. But I feel there's like quite a lot of entrepreneurs right now in the continent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Just one thing. Let's say don't ask banks to do what they are not built for. Banks are not built to fund startups. That's why they fund SMEs. An SME is different to a startup. An SME, you have some kind of stable revenues coming every month, every year, etc. So banks can do that. Banks cannot invest in businesses that are so risky, because banks, it's not their own money. They got deposit from people, and they just have to keep it and to give it back to people. So they cannot invest in those such risky business. I think we are running out of time for the whole presentation, so I will allow maybe 2 or 3 people to give some highlight. I have Babukar Kebe from the Gambia. Please go ahead.
Hello, thank you very much, Adram. Of course, let me say you left us, huh? You left us here when you started with us. Anyways, good to see you and thank you. Quickly, I just wanted to probably not directly. I know we have some, the Gambia Angel Investment Network is doing very well in terms of trying to get angel investors to start something, especially with the undernode program that is actually happening with YEP. But I just wanted to get your perspective. Probably I didn't have much in terms of what you raised, but I just want to say, maybe also ask a question about, you were here before us, and what do you see in our ecosystem? What actually do you think us as an ecosystem should be able to galvanize or amplify to ensure we encourage more investment investors into the game in the Gambia? Thank you.
Well, thank you. It's very focused on Gambia, but if I can give maybe 2 words on this. Gambia is, I mean, it was tough to create this angel investment work. I mean, there are people here from ITC. We work together. Mayara is here. It took a lot of time to change some people mindset, because when we started, they were all saying, "Oh, I'm investing already into small businesses. What you guys can," and it is not working. They invest, they lose their money, and that's what they were saying. So it was very important to work with them and show them how actually they could change their way of investing and what they can expect. And also, investing is not just giving money. I mean, at this stage, at least, it's not just giving money. It's about giving money and nurturing the business, helping them, giving them, opening markets, because you have some contacts, for example, bringing some expertise, etc., etc. So it's a long-term work. So we have done a bit of it. We still have some work to do, but I'm sure once you start doing it, some people, or we already have some people that joined the network after actually the launch, because they saw what we were doing. They were interested. Some of them are from the diaspora, for example, and we welcome them. So more you do, and I mean, you have to do it well, of course. I mean, you will attract more people. There are many other things that I can say, but if you want, we can have a private talk later, and then I will be happy to discuss this.
Yes, please. I would really want that. Thank you.
Any other wait, just I just want to come back here. Since we are running a bit late, out of time, we are running out of time here. I would like maybe to ask you one question. Why do you think it is so difficult to connect entrepreneurs and investors in your country? Quickly, maybe 1 or 2 people. No one?
Yeah, look, I think that the challenge isn't really connecting the entrepreneur to the investor, because the investors are really mature people with a lot of money, and a lot of them that are African are willing to give back. Challenge is quality of the ideas, and the issue of obviously the due diligence. I mean, if there are clear structures like the angel networks, where if you know that if you put your money is safe and you do it with others, then there wouldn't be a challenge. But being in Africa, obviously Africans don't like working together. Syndication becomes difficult.
Yeah.
So my comment on that, it's really a more of a structure issue. It's not really about the difficulty. It's about the structure and the quality of startups and the maturity of the ecosystem. Because if you look at Nigeria, South Africa, Kenya, these are very mature markets. People understand, and a lot of the investment there is in place. But if you come to places like Botswana, which is new, you go to Namibia, you go to Angola, all these new countries, they're a bit 10 years backwards. So that's sort of my view on this.
Thank you. Any other comments?
If I may just come back on that, if
having the same people. Okay, Babukar, quickly, yes.
Yes, I was just saying, just also connected to my colleague here that just said in terms of the quality, but I think also we have some challenges in terms of getting people being coached, especially coached towards how to make their investment ready, to make startups investments ready. I think we really need to work on mentoring and coaching throughout Africa to get special people that are actually focused on molding startups for investment ready, especially with trade support organizations. I think this is actually difficult. The reason why they have quality problem is because maybe they lack a very good coach or advisors to guide them through. So I think that's one of my challenges, especially in the Gambia. Thank you.
Can I also add?
Okay, thank you.
Precious?
Sorry, my network was bad.
Yeah, we lost you there. Could you repeat?
Yes. So with us in Zambia, I think it's lack of access to information. Most small businesses have no idea on places where they could access investments. We do have a number of companies offering investments, like quite a number of them, but it's rare that people know where they can find these investment companies. And not only that, there's so much documentation that you need to have in place for you to access investment, which becomes a problem because most small business owners have no idea where they can have all their documentation be done for them to be ready for that investment. So it's really challenging here.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. I think I had some internet issues, so I did not get the first part of your of what you were saying. But yes, I think these are things we all share in our ecosystems, even in mature ecosystems. Maybe a last question, quickly, briefly. Maybe one person. What services are available, and which one you might need to build, provide, find partners, for example. Maybe one person, some services that are available, or some you really need to create or to find in your ecosystems.
Hello, may I go on that one?
Yes, please, Patrick.
Yes. Okay. Like for instance, like my colleague said from Zambia, At least we have some services with regard to hubs. We have hubs which are providing some of these services. But of course, what the gap may be or the need is these hubs or incubators to have some partnership with maybe investors, so that in a situation where you build the capacity of these entrepreneurs, it would be very easy for you to link to some of these investors. So I think the partnership between the hubs and the investors is something which needs to be built if we are going to see growth. Because this is a challenge we've had where you give the entrepreneurs some of these services, although sometimes investment ready is something which we are trying to work on. And these are programs which we are actually trying to start and see how we can do that. But you train, then what next? So that is something I think could be provided or developed. Thank you.
Are you getting me?
Yes, please.
Did you get my point?
Seems like Adrame might have lost connection again.
Adrame, you seem to be frozen. Can you hear us?
Adrame, if you switch off your video, it will be better. The connection you said.
Adrame, if you can hear us, maybe it would be better if you try to switch off your video because of the connection.
Yes, I can hear you. So I switch off the video. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. I think there is an issue with my, actually it's not the connection, it's my computer, but let's try to do it. Thank you for your contribution. I did not hear everything that you have said, Patrick, but I'm sure people benefit from it. So let's continue with the second part of the webinar. I will go quicker on this because I think we are running a bit of out of time. How you gonna build your own program? And Mayra, if you cannot hear me, just let me know, maybe on WhatsApp, and I will try to change the thing. So how can you build your own program? The first thing you have to know is, from our experience, the program need to be hands-on, meaning you really have to make sure that you get really your hand dirty in the business. I mean, you have to be in there. Also, one thing that is working really is the learning by doing method. Meaning what we do usually, people come with their own cases, their own business, and then they use it, and everything they do it into their own business. It's not a webinar like this one shot and that's over. No, it's a long-term thing. So they come, they start working on something, you give them a bit of time, maybe one month, maybe 1 week, maybe 2-3 weeks to work, to come back, and then to continue. the challenge with this is if you have cohorts, some might go faster than others. So you have to manage this carefully. But this is the way we think it's really, it can really work for them. And at the end, they go out of the program, they graduate with some tangible deliverables, a financial model, a teaser, the tools that they can use in their own business, ready to use and ready maybe to sign to any investor. The last thing that is really, really important is you have to be very selective, meaning if they don't have the minimum requirement to comes in, don't let them in, because otherwise your program won't work correctly. What I mean is the minimum criteria are for example, for early stage business, a minimum viable product, a concept. But if your institution can help them also at the earliest stage of their business, that is great. That is really great. But you have to manage all of this carefully, depending on, of course, your environment, the purpose of your institution. Each of you, you might have different purposes and different way of doing things, but these are guidelines that can help. On this, we'll go on the second and most important part of this is the content. We try different things, but these are the things we think can work. At the ideation and the seed stage, people need to understand what is being entrepreneur and how it works actually. What is being entrepreneur and how it works actually. So they have to know that how to go from maybe a person that is working in a company to being an entrepreneur, how to do your accounting, your own accounting, how to manage your cash, right? These are key and important. So that's why we are saying it has to be like a kind of boot camp, meaning some very important, like 1 week where they are there, they do things, they try things, they fail, but they do again, etc., etc. For the second one, the incubation, that's mostly maybe what you guys are doing, is to deliver growth mechanisms for these startups, to help them to grow. We'll get in details into this. And the last one is the scale up for me, when they have this stable revenue stream in their market, in their city, for example, and now they want to scale. They want to go up to, go to another city, another country, or just to increase their sales, how they will do it, etc. So I will get a bit in details into this. So the first one, the entrepreneurship behavioral mindset, it's generally a 1-week program where you will show how to turn an idea to an actual business. Maybe most of the companies you are helping are beyond that, but it's good maybe to remind that it's important to calibrate the entrepreneur's mindset to make sure that they know what it is about to be entrepreneur. You won't have money every month, right? Even for you, for your living, you won't have it. It can be very hard. So you have to have the support of your family, your friends, people, the incubators, for example, you guys, etc., etc., to really make them understand what is it about to be an entrepreneur. The second one is to work on the business model and the segmentation of a market, because when you start a business, you start an idea, the first thing people will ask you, how are you going to make money? How are you going to make money? And who are your customers? Am I part of your customers, etc. This is important to make sure that to help them to start to know what they want to do and how they want to do it. It's not the end thing, because the business model can evolve, can change. The segmentation of the market can change also, but at least they start with something. Also, one of the most important is the basic financial education. When they start, they have to start with bookkeeping, cash management. Very important, because when the investor comes in, he will ask you, show me your numbers. And you have to start since the beginning. So if in the beginning you were not doing it, I mean, it will be hard. Okay. I know most of the small businesses, they don't do it because they don't want to pay taxes, right? So they tend to hide part of their revenues. Well, I don't think it's a good thing to do. So you have to show them why it is not the best thing to do if they want to attract investors. Because roughly investors, they are looking for very well-structured business. Everything is in the books. Nothing is hidden, because if they realize that something were hidden in the past, they might say, oh, this guy, he's hiding some stuff. Maybe in the future he will keep doing it. So this is not, it is not creating a healthy, relationship. So it might be a problem. So it's very important. The second one is the incubation. I say 3 to 5 weeks. It can be longer, it can be shorter. It depends on you. But here, it's very important. We talked about the value proposition, to refine it, to make sure that they understand what is it there, how they will go to the market strategy, the go-to-market strategy, validating the market fit. Who are your customer? Is your product good for the market, fit the market? Are people buying your products? This is very important to know. There are a few companies that, they don't really, I mean, they look at the market, but they just get out their products and then they sell. There are a few of them like Apple, but these are Apple and so on. So you are not there yet. So it's very important to really assess the market, the size of the market, and how your product can fit with the market. The team, again, I talked about the team, having a HR manual to design the profiles, the team that will implement the strategy. When I look at your team, I have to make sure that I understand how and why these guys, they are able to do what you're saying you want to do very clearly. And the money, we talked about cash management and earlier. Here, they have to go a bit beyond that, just recording. They have to understand accounting, corporate finance, how they have to, all these financial statements, for example, for business managers. They are not finance guys, so they don't need to know everything about finance, but at least they have to be able to read their finance, to read their numbers and get something out of it, saying, I'm doing good, I'm not doing good, where I'm doing good, where I'm not doing good. And also the financial projection and valuation, because once you are interested in attracting investors, they are asking you, what are you going to do in the future? And then what is the value of your business today? The last one on the content is the scale up. Are for businesses that want to scale. It's a long process. It's longer than the others. It might go up to 6 months. Usually, it's more a coaching program. Someone mentioned this coaching thing. It's more a coaching. But before you do a coaching, you have to do a complete diagnosis of the business to make sure that you understand what is working, what is not working, or better, what can you improve in this business. There are a few tools that exist to do this diagnosis, and if you don't, most of them you have to pay, but you guys, you can just try to put together something and or get some help from some service providers. They might help you. We have one, Advertis. We can see how this can be used. And once you have identified the problems, now how you can create a champion. A champion, this is important. Investors, that's what they are looking for. They want to invest in a champion. So how you can create, how can you help the business, the startup to become a champion? So that's where you have to use some really specific methods to identify and to find solution through innovation. Innovation usually is the only way or one of the best way to become a champion and to keep ahead of the competition. Here we have identified three main things that create a champion. You have to be, if you are good in these three things, obviously you will become a champion. Two can do, but you have a product leadership, a customer intimacy, and an operational excellence. I won't go much in depth into these three components, but just try to understand what is it about, and then you will see. And for the record, this has been developed by some professors at HEC, strategy professors at HEC, the business school in Paris. Now we'll do a second quiz before we finish, but we are almost at the end of this webinar. When building your investment readiness program, which of the following steps are important? You have multiple choices. Mapping your ecosystem, having a hands-on program, setting up a 5 weeks program, adapting your program to your environment, having a network of partners to support each step. Yeah, please, more than 9. Okay. Okay, okay, 13 out of 16. It's good already. So we have 85% for the first one, 77 for the last one, etc. 85. Only 8% on setting up a 5 weeks program. I understand why we have this 8% here. Actually, okay, let's stop sharing this. Let me close my quiz. Actually, the program is all of them. I know why it was really precise to say setting up a 5 weeks program. The meaning here is setting up a precise number of weeks of program. It can be 5, it can be 10, but it's very important to say I have a program of 5 weeks, 7 weeks, because when I get into your program, I have to know when I will get out, when I will graduate, what I will get there. So for me, it's all of them. We might rewrite the C, or setting up a final or a fixed number of weeks, for example. But the answer here is all of them. It's really important to map your ecosystem, to know your ecosystem, having a hands-on program, setting up some number of weeks or months of program, adapting your program to your environment, having a network of partners. This is very, very important. So the last one is the deliverables. I call it the investment pack. You can see another name somewhere else. But for me, for each stage of this business, these are the things we are expecting, at least. But when we are at the stage, at the late stage, for example, we already have the other stages, okay? So meaning when you are at the ideation stage, the C stage, what I expect from a business is to have a management account. I will ask them to send it to me. I will read it, because, okay, they can work on a teaser, a financial model, something, but I don't have a lot of traction to really talk about numbers. What I do is I try to evaluate. This is not a valuation webinar, but what I try to do is to see the team actually, what they do, how they do things, and also the idea, the business model. And these things, I will talk to them and see, meet with them. But what I expect at least is to have a minimum of numbers on what they did so far. This is very important. At the early stage, it can be the seed stage also. I expect at least an investment package. one business profile. This is not very important, but at least what is important is a teaser, an investment deck, 10 to 20 slides explaining exactly what you have done, what you want to do, what you want to achieve, and how much do you need. And the last document, maybe one of the most important, is the financial model. The financial model actually translate your idea. I already said it. Translate your idea into numbers. People want to see here how you're going to make it. The how is there. It's not just what you're saying, it's how you can go, how you'll be doing it. At the latest stage, so as already said, we have this diagnostic report and acceleration work plan, because it's quite important to know what is the problem, or how you're going to make your, let's say, in which levels you can use to make your company grow. But again, it's more important to know how you're going to do it. Have a clear work plan for the next year, the 2 next years, etc. For me, it's really important to see how you're going to scale your business. Connecting with investors. This is the last slide on this. Actually, not the last. There is one slide left on this webinar. How to connect with investors. It was great to hear some of you when on this open discussion, talking about difficulty of structuring our ecosystems, our organization, or structuring some documents, or this coaching aspect of it. What is important here is to make sure that you connect these businesses with your partners. And your partners might not be directly investors, but these guys can introduce them to investors. So it's really important for me. The first thing is to attend your ecosystem partners events locally and internationally. It's really, really key. It's where people can meet, people can talk, and people can actually pitch their business. I mean, really, really important. Again, with this COVID, it's a bit difficult, but try to innovate and see how you can make this happen. You have to organize some pitch events. You have to. You don't have choice. Even if it's just to test or whatever, you have to do it. And you have to invite people. You have to invite external people. Even some people you don't think they are investors, invite them. If you think that they have the minimum of network or minimum of knowledge or expertise, or they have been in the business for a while, invite them, because they might have a contact or some contacts that can help in different ways. So invite people, especially investors, potential investors. If you know them, if you don't know them, do your homework, try to find some of them. Organize some networking events, like the first one you attend, but also you organize, you invite some guest speakers to talk about some topics, the commercial law, for example, to talk about some intellectual property aspect of to talk about, I don't know, competition, how do you avoid, how do you keep ahead of the competition, etc. There are many subjects, many topics you can talk about for your companies. This is actually part of the program. You have to do webinars, or through different other channels. You can organize some competitions. I don't like much startups going in lot of competitions, because while they are competing to pitch, they are not working on their business. So it's very important to focus on the business and work, and sometimes to select few competitions and to attend them, very few to attend them. So you can organize some competitions for them. Also co-organize what you call investment days, where you invite investors, you invite this international organization like ITC, you invite this UN organization, the African Development Bank, whatever. You invite them, they will see what you will do, and they will support you. They will support your work. They might fund a bit what you are going to do, If you have some, you know, even the event itself, they can support you in organizing it. Always try to connect, try to make, to create an environment where these startups can connect to the rest of the world. And also have a strong social media presence, because nowadays people go on social media, people interact there, people actually, I was talking with a friend lately, we were talking about how now, because in the last years we were attending events everywhere, doing, you know, meeting people, etc. And now we don't have any more events. How we connect with people? I just told him, you know, for me today, the way I connect with people are through LinkedIn, for example, because that's the only social media where I mean, it could be through other social media, Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, or whatever. I use more LinkedIn, and that's where I connect with people, and it is working quite well, because people, you have to use what you have. Today, these are the platform where you really can connect with people. I'm sorry, I'm going a bit quick on all of this, but you will have the slides, and we'll send you also some other stuff. The key takeaways here: know your ecosystem. Very important. It's key. Make sure that they pick the right potential investors. When you prepare them, they are ready. They have all they need for all the needs for any investor. They have the documents, they have everything that are backing the documents. They are ready, they know how they're going to use it. Actually, when you meet an investor, what is going to happen? They have all the required. So I will go on the last point here. Being investment ready increase substantially the chance of getting funded. Why? Because if you come to me as an investor, I'm an investor. You come to me, you are a startup. You come to me and say, I need money. This is what I did. I prepare everything. So I just need to make sure that this business is in line with my investment thesis. I did not invest in a similar business lately, for example. So now it's not on the business, it's on me to make sure that this business fit with what I'm doing. But if you already did, I mean, the institution or the startups, if you did your homework, you know, you assess those potential investors, and when you go to talk to an investor, you have a minimum of ideas of if you can fit with that what they are doing or not, because you have to do some research. So it means if they open their doors and say, oh, this is great, we are interested, it gives you a lot of chance to get funding. Okay, this is really important. And the second point, of course, we talked about it, build a comprehensive investment readiness program, hands-on, adaptable, and tangible deliverables when they graduate. And now, yeah, just go out with them, try to organize events, try to make sure that they meet your partners, they meet and when I say partners, really open partners, I mean, not just investors, service providers, everyone, marketing professionals, everyone that can be, that can help in any ways. Really, really important. Usually, the one that will fund your business, you won't meet him at the first. You meet someone that will introduce you to him. And when people introduce you to people they know, it makes things easier. It makes really things easier because it's like a referral, okay, even if it's not. And then things are always easier. So make sure that they meet with the right people. So that's it for this first part. We'll have a second part, I think, on the 20th of this month. We will send you maybe in the next 2-3 days some homework. We call it homework, but it's more, we really want to have your feedbacks on what is important for you and how we can adapt the second part to fit exactly with what do you need to know. We have few ideas. The few ideas are to work on some tangible deliverables, the management accounts, the financial modeling, and the teaser. These are the things we'll prepare for the next webinar to see what is in there, what we as an investor we can expect to have and to see. briefly, the investor deck, for example, these are the things we will, it won't be the same structure, but these are briefly the things we will expect. Introduction, the team, the problem, advantages, solution, product, traction, market, competition, business model, investing, and contacts. These are the things we will expect. And on the financial model, of course, I will show you some examples of financial model through on Excel to see exactly when you have or build a financial model, what do you have to have there? And if you don't have one, for example, some templates, it will be good to say maybe we can find ways to help you on this. So I think that's it. I did 1 hour and 29 minutes, so it was quite long. Very sorry for the delay and for some of my internet issues. Thank you. If you have questions, Mayra, I don't know, or Julia.
Yes, we have some questions here in the chat.
Yeah.
So maybe if you could, I'm going to read some of them to you.
Mm-hmm.
And you can take it. So the first one was, is the gap in Africa tech ecosystem in the ideation and partnership specialists at pre-seed? I think the question is if there is a gap in the Africa tech ecosystem in the ideation and pre-seed stage.
Definitely, definitely. I guess it's he's talking about a gap, investment gap, right?
I believe so, yes.
Yes, definitely there is a gap, a huge gap that we are trying to fill in. The gap is huge. Africa and even in other continents, in developing countries in Asia, in South America, we have the same. In some countries, but everywhere in the continents. When you talk about Africa, it's not just Africa. There is a gap. In some countries, the gap is less. If you go in South Africa, it's a bit better. If you go in Morocco, it's a bit better. If you go in Egypt, it's a bit better. In Nigeria, it's better than in Senegal, for example. Kenya is better than Uganda, for example. So you have some disparities in the countries, but generally speaking, yes, there is a gap. There is a gap, a strong gap. And that's why it's important. You know, I heard my friend from, I think, Botswana, he talked about they do help in, they do support the starters, but also they have a kind of fund. So it's very important also to support, and if you can have a side fund to support your work, it's always good to provide this seed funding to the startups you are supporting.
So the other question is, are the growth stages in the Valley of Death measured in years?
Are the growth stage?
The growth stages in the Valley of Death, the graph that you have showed,
yes,
are those stages measured in years? In years?
Well, in years, not really, but it's linked. It's more in the growth of, I mean, the stage of the business, because you can see some businesses, they start today and, you know, the ideation stage can last than others. So, but it's more on the, when we talk about the stage of a business, you know, it's more about how much revenue you are generating. It's the size of the business, actually, how much revenue you are generating, how much clients you have, how much traction do you have, your brand recognition, for example, depending on your industry, etc. So it's not really related to the years. I mean, if I understood well, Mayara, what you're saying, the number of years, it's more the size of the business. It's more the traction of the business. Yeah, the stage of a business is more the, yeah, what is, how big is the business, let's say.
Okay. So next question, do the suggested timelines take online delivery into consideration, especially in these COVID areas? So you have mentioned the length of the investment program. So those timelines take into consideration online delivery too?
Well, this timeline again are suggestions. And what is important here, my key message here is to have some timelines. That's it. If it lasts longer than what I suggest is good. If it is shorter, it's good. It depends on your environment. You have to adapt it and you have to test it. You start doing it, you start helping them, and you realize that you need more time, then you extend it. But at the end, maybe after few months, few years, after 2-3 cohort, you will have the right timeline, even during this COVID situation. The COVID situation changed just one thing, is you can see, it's difficult, it's more difficult to see people physically and to make them come physically in a classroom or in your hubs, right? It's still possible. In some country, it's still possible, but we try to avoid it, to avoid these groups of people coming there. But a lot of things can be done online. Really, a lot can be done online. So adapt those. I don't know if I answer the question, but try to adapt them. These are just suggestions. In this COVID situation, it might be longer, it might be shorter. It depends.
So I'm going to go for the last question that we have had so far. If you have other questions, this is your last chance. Mm-hmm. So feel free to put it in the chat box or to raise your hand. And in the meantime, Adrame, the last question that we have had was related to the management account. So how detailed would you say the management account need to be? How many pages?
Well, we can, this is very, very important. And I thank you for the question, because this is something we will talk about for the next session. There is no rule in the management account. The management account, is a document where you record what is happening in your business, right? The expenses, the revenue, everything. How many pages? There is no rule on this. It can be 1 page, for example. Honestly, I saw management accounts in 1 page. It can be in many pages. It depends. But what I can say is, on the next webinar, we will talk about it. We will show some examples, and if you have examples, bring them with you, and we will have a nice chat on it. There is no actual rule on it, so I cannot say it's 3 pages or 4 pages. It depends on the business. It depends on what you are doing. It depends on many things. It depends on the stage of the business. More the business is mature, and more pages or more. I cannot say pages, because sometimes you do it. Often. Let's say even always, it's on Excel, right? So, and when you do it on Excel, you don't have like number of pages or yeah. So, but anyway, it is something we will talk about clearly on the next webinar. I saw someone raise a hand.
Yes, we had one hand raised by Muketsi. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but I think he put his hand down.
Yeah,
but he posted. Yes, go ahead.
I was going to say this session was actually very valuable. I think it can benefit broadly the ecosystem in Southern Africa. I've mentioned Namibia and Zambia, because I think that's still early into the sector. So it would be great for you guys to something like this. We are happy to facilitate, because we're really at the heart of the ecosystem, and we know colleagues in these countries that I've mentioned who would really appreciate consider extending this. I don't know how you have in your plans in terms of really sharing more of these, but I think this would really benefit a lot of the ecosystems that are now emerging, especially in SADC.
Yes, thank you for the suggestion. We can definitely consider this. Maybe we can have a separate discussion on this. But it reminds me to encourage you to follow the ITC EA community. So through the EA community, we have been having a series of webinars focused on different parts of the world. So we had a workshop with investors in East Africa. We just had also with Anglophone West Africa, Francophone West Africa. So definitely we could look at something in Southern Africa as well. But check it out. It's a community for young entrepreneurs that maybe could be of interest as well for the businesses that you guys support. And we post everything that we are doing related to the program through this platform.
There's actually a webinar on this tomorrow. So I will post the link to the registration in the chat.
Yes, tomorrow I think we have Anglophone West Africa, right, Jenny?
Yes.
Yeah. So if there isn't any questions left, I don't see any hands up or questions in the chat. I think we can close this session. Thank you very much, Adrame, for this. Like Adrame said, the part 2 of this workshop will take place on the 20th of October at the same time. I would also like to thank you all for joining us, especially for the survivors that are here until the end. I know we are running a bit late, but I think the very low dropout rate shows that this was an interesting session and useful for you. Adrame, he will be in touch as well with some materials in between to help you prepare for the next session, which is more hands-on. Like he said, it's a bit of a homework, but it's also to help us to make it a better fit for you. So also in the meantime, we have a quick feedback survey on the session. So we're going to put the link on the chat box. We would be glad to hear your thoughts. It's a very quick and easy survey to answer because this will also help us to improve before the next sessions. And without taking much more of your time, thank you very much for connecting. Thank you, Adrame, and I hope to see you on part 2.
Thank you all. Thank you for joining us today. I think it was valuable even for me. So see you in 2 weeks' time, something like that.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Thank you.